Welcome back to the Black Carnivore podcast. Today, I am really excited to bring Victoria Olson, who is an incredible person in the community. She has been a carnivore for quite some time and has had huge success in terms of reversing her, conditions and achieving wellness. And also, she has started and moderates a Facebook group called Carnivores 40 Plus. And why don't you tell us a little bit more about your group and why you started that, Victoria?
Well, I found that there was a bit of a difference in ages. Some of the younger people tended to slam right into carnivore, and they did not have the issues that motivated older people or should motivate older people. They don't have the years of insulin resistance behind them that has damaged their organs and made it difficult for them to survive without medication or to be mobile. So I thought that there was a niche there, and being a person of a certain age, I'm 70 now, but I started the group a couple of years ago. I thought that that would be helpful, and I found that people were interested, and it certainly, it opened right up that people of that age group were interested in the carnivore diet for the healing properties.
Yeah. So what would you say are some of the specific differences that you see between, let's say a 30-year-old carnivore versus, a 50-year-old?
Well, I think younger people are a little more flexible with things like starting to fast right away and enduring, giving things up. And older people are set in their ways. They don't want to let go of certain ways of eating. They're less likely to understand that we've not had the best information given to us by the powers that be in our government health departments. Younger people just are in general more flexible with their thinking and their dieting. That was my impression.
Interesting. I have my mom was a baby boomer mom and totally, into like the civil rights and 70s and all of that. And so was always questioning authority. So I always assume all baby boomers are like that, but maybe not.
Well, I do. I question authority, and I was active in movements in the 70s, civil rights and anti-war. And I get that. But and in a sense, it is a kind of an anti-governmental thing because we had been misdirected, disinformed about health. And there is information out there to be had. And that's the thrust of our group. I put a lot of time into bringing expert information to the older crowd so they really understand that we're not just having a fad here. It's not something that's going to come and go. This is new information that's real information, and it's applicable to you and your age group.
Well, I can attest to the amazing amount of information that you have in the group. So if anybody, who's watching, if you're 40 plus, like this is the place to go because there really is great information in the guides in the Facebook group and a community of people who have a lot of, collective experience. And so it definitely is a great place to be.
Yeah, we've been able to amass quite a good group of people who really get it. And recently I saw you had Dr. Chaffee on. You interviewed him, yeah, and he's one of our favorites. And it's that kind of that philosophy that we're aiming for. We don't go off and try fun carb things. I try to curate it. I use that word loosely to be very much on the path of carnivore, not necessarily the lion diet, but maybe with a variety of meats involved, but just to stay on the animal protein path.
Yeah. So let's hear about your, origin story. How did you come to carnivore? What were some of the things that you were struggling with? And how are you now?
Well, let's see. I started on a low carb diet back in 2015 when my husband had a heart attack and he had to lose weight. And what had also happened, I had hurt my back and I ended up on the couch and I gained like about 45 pounds. And I already was a little on the chunky side. So he decided he wanted to do Dr. Atkins. And he had had success with that in the 70s, as had I. So we looked into it, and Dr. Atkins had kind of evolved into keto. So we started off a little bit sliding into it with paleo, and then we went keto. And we were keto for 3 years. And then we just decided we weren't losing weight fast enough. And on keto, I did not have the experience I had on carnivore later, but we started carnivore in January of 2019. And Dr. Ken Berry was my inspiration for that. I said, if he can do it, I can do it. You know, I figured, what the heck. So we started it and tried it, and we went into it slowly. About 3 months in, I stopped having gout attacks. About 6 months in, I stopped being depressed and anxious, which had been a lifelong issue for me. 8 months in, I started to feel that my back, which I had a herniated disc and 5 desiccated discs, and it was terrible pain for me to stand for more than a minute. Literally, I couldn't stand. I couldn't prepare dinner. I had to sit in a chair all the time. And that was one of the reasons I was gaining weight. Plus, with the pain, you just indulge yourself with food to try to, I don't know if that's a way of drugging yourself. But we tried carnivore and we really liked it because we found these progressively beneficial results. My back pain going away was just a miracle. I got up one day and I said to my husband, guess what? I can stand up. I don't have a problem anymore. And it was literally like that. And I had lost about 47 pounds on keto. And one would think that would have done it, but it didn't. And I hadn't lost weight on carnivore at that point. I had just healed. And that's an issue a lot of people find, especially older people, that it takes them longer to lose weight. But that and the other thing that cured for me was lichen sclerosus, which is a skin condition that's associated with an autoimmune condition. And I had it for 12 years at that point, and I was told it would never heal, and I was using steroid creams. It's a thinning of the skin and mucous membranes. And in the 9th month of carnivore, and we were pretty strict, it started to go away. And one day I just, on a whim, I quit dairy. And I'd been using raw dairy for about 8 months in. There was an Amish farm and I got cream from them and cheeses from them, raw dairy from them. And I quit the dairy. And by the end of the 10th month, I visited my doctor and showed her, and it was gone. It had gone into remission. Wow. She was flabbergasted. I'd had this for 12 years and it was really, really annoying and awful and gone. So I understand a lot of other people had clear up skin conditions from going on carnivore.
And so you were exclusively raw dairy?
I had been, yes, I had been using raw dairy, and I was having a lot of dairy. I was making creme fraiche and yogurt with the cream, also clotted cream. I was just consuming mass quantities of this stuff and figuring, oh, this is great for me. And I know about that A2, A1 issue with milk, and I don't know, I didn't touch on that, but I thought the raw dairy would have been good enough, but it was the dairy. And I know now that should I transgress and go back and have some cream, I get a flare up. So I know that that's what it was for me, unfortunately for me, because I missed the heck out of it. But some people can go on without it, but I have had to stop it. But it was very successful for me that way.
Mm-hmm. Wow, so that sounds like a ton of success. And so you, just to get the timeline right, so you started keto in 2015, you said?
Yes.
And then you went to carnivore in 2019. But during that 4 years, you had lost 47 pounds, but still your back problems got progressively worse.
Yes. Well, yeah, they didn't improve at all. And I truly believe that the extra cholesterol from the carnivore diet helped make that healing happen. And I tried to get my doctor to give me another x-ray and he wouldn't do it. He said, if you don't have a problem anymore, why should we x-ray you? I wanted to see what had happened, but I do have 2 x-rays from the period before, the many years before, when I was suffering from back pain that was so chronic. So I have proof that it happened, but it doesn't bother me a bit, nothing. I don't even get tired that way. It's great.
Wow. So after all of those months of like not walking, did you have a lot of muscle to rebuild? Once you started?
I probably did have a little sarcopenia going on. That's certainly par for the course for people my age. And I did start walking, but not till the following summer. And then I started walking every day and worked up to three miles a day, which was very helpful. And I think but that's about the extent of it. Recently, we started doing exercise with resistance bands. We're big fans of Bob and Brad, who are physical therapists on YouTube. And we bought a set of their bands and hooks and put them up in the garage. So we're doing resistance with body weight. So we're hoping that'll help. And we've started to feel it, definitely feel the difference. So I think that's important. And I think it's necessary. People say, oh, on a low carb diet, you don't have to exercise. And I think, well, you don't have to necessarily to lose weight, but to be fit and to keep your muscles in good condition, you do need some exercise, especially weight bearing exercise.
Yeah. And I think I remember you telling me at one point that you had also had gastric bypass or some kind of bariatric surgery.
Yes, I had gastric bypass in 1999, January 1999. And it worked for a while until I hurt my back. And then all heck broke loose and I just started overeating. And I'm a big fan of ice cream, so that'll do it too. So sit on the sofa and have ice cream all day is going to put the weight on.
Wow. So did you notice that there were any, any adjustments that you had to make in terms of how you did carnivore for that surgery or for that adjustment?
No, surprisingly, I know a lot of people. I've also at that time had my gallbladder removed, and I never had an issue with it. I had gallbladder issues before I had my gallbladder removed, and I knew what that pain was like, but nothing afterwards. It's unfortunate some people do, and I think there are things for it. Like I know on your show you've discussed hydrochloric acid and ox bile and maybe even some, enzymes, digestive enzymes that help people. And I found that people who do take them don't necessarily have to take them for very long because the body does kind of acclimatize to dissolving the fat and getting it digested.
So it sounds like you had a really, kind of a perfect gastric or bariatric surgery experience, because some of the people that I talk to have continued to have what's the word I'm looking for, vitamin deficiencies, anemia, heartburn, yes. Physical problems.
I had anemia from my surgery. I was barred from giving blood, and it wasn't a terrible anemia. I was on a scale of 1 to 12, I was an 11. And they kept rejecting me when I went to give blood. On keto, that did not change. On carnivore, I went to having a very healthy blood cell count. And I can donate blood now. That was one thing. But yes, otherwise, I didn't have a vitamin deficiency. I didn't have a calcium deficiency. I was lucky. I had RNY surgery. There are different kinds. Maybe I did get lucky because, yes, I know many people who've had the surgery who've had issues, and that's unfortunate. But yes, maybe I count myself among the lucky people. But the anemia did go away with the carnivore, and I don't try to take iron or be involved with. I don't eat organ meat actually anymore. I used to, but I haven't for at least a year or longer. It's just that I don't, my medical tests don't show the need for it.
Mm-hmm. Wow, I definitely want to dive into that. So, we've seen for a long time, a lot of people talking about, you got to get your multivitamin liver and, you've got to eat your organs and there's all of this great stuff. But I feel like, now we're starting to see a little bit of pushback against that idea. People saying, hey, like, you don't need organs and, and there may be risks to having too much liver.
Yeah.
So, is that something that you've considered? Is that why you kind of decide to stop taking them?
That was part of it. My understanding from my early research into carnivore was that the organ meats were there to bring vitamin C to the diet. Now, eating meat was the original cure for scurvy, as I'm sure you know. But with the organ meats, it does bring excess vitamin A and iron, which are those insoluble, I don't know the term, I've lost the name of the term. They're vitamins that get stored in the body for a few days after you consume them. And if you're eating red meat, you're going to get them anyway. And you don't have to supplement. And I see lots of people asking, how much liver should I eat every day? And at one point I used to say, well, an ounce a day is just about more than enough. But now I say, well, check your blood, see if you really need to do that. Because some people are also taking the desiccated supplements of organ meats, and those don't contain any vitamin C, but they are packed with the A and iron that may not be the most beneficial thing to take. Judy Cho of Nutrition with Judy did a video recently, I don't know if you've seen it, about how, I think she titled it, How Beef and Liver Has Not Worked for Many Carnivores. And it's a somewhat misleading title because she doesn't mean it doesn't work. What she means is you're loading up on these nutrients that you don't need to do when you are carnivore. You don't have to worry about vitamin C as well because you don't need it as much as people who consume carbs.
Yeah, I did see that video and I thought it was really interesting. I actually wanted to do a reaction video. So, by the time this comes out, maybe I'll have done it.
That's good.
Yeah.
She did a lot of homework.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought there was, a lot of stuff to dive in on. I mean, I'm not, convinced that one should never eat organs, but on the other hand, I like to remind people that, a cow has 70 organs, over 70 organs. So, it doesn't all have to be liver, and fat is an organ, and we eat that all the time. And
well, you won't get to eat an eyeball.
Hey, I never say never. And, if I am, yeah, and if I'm in the right circumstances and it is the appropriate social thing to do, I will do it.
Some cultures do. Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's bone marrow. There's a lot of easier, more gentle ways to, to join the organ meat club. So yeah. So now, well, let's, go on to ask, what do you eat now? What does your daily food look like?
We have a relative variety. We have ribeye steak once or twice a week. And then we have ground beef, stew meats. I'll make a pot roast or a stew. Chicken, we have chicken twice a week. Pork, I discovered a new cut called rack of pork, which is like rack of lamb. My husband doesn't care for lamb, but the rack of pork was at Costco, and I sous vide'd it, and it came out so tender. It was amazing. So we can eat pork, and I think Judy's point about pork was there's thiamine in pork that is not as well provided by eating beef alone. So chicken, pork, various forms of beef. Sometimes turkey, because my husband likes it and misses it. And We don't do so much fish. We used to do salmon relatively regularly. I do shrimp myself. Husband's allergic to it. But what we do take is an omega-3 supplement. And there's been some controversy about whether or not they're effective. And what I have discovered is I take a pure EPA omega-3. It's a fish oil supplement that does not have DHA in it. And the reason for that is it had been discovered that DHA inhibits the activity of EPA and isn't so terribly effective on its own. And what has evolved from that is that there are now prescription versions of EPA for people who have very high triglycerides. And what you buy over the counter is not quite the same thing. And we have discovered that both our cholesterol and our triglycerides have been reduced since we started taking that as a supplement, which was a couple of years ago. So, yeah. That's
okay. So the last time you checked on that was a couple of years ago, or you've been taking it for a couple of years?
I want to say we've been taking it for a couple of years, but I may be wrong. It was early last year. Sorry, yeah, early last year. So yes, and we had 3 blood tests. One from December of the prior year, then May, when I had just started taking it, and then another one this past November. And we watched as our cholesterol and triglycerides went down. And very significantly for my husband, whose cholesterol was at 500, is now, and went down 250 points. Mine went down about 168 points. It's at 240 now. But
wow, that's pretty significant.
Yeah, but it's kind of sort of a thing for the doctor, maybe, because they're still in that mindset that cholesterol is causative or correlated to heart disease, which we know it isn't. And even the American Heart Association has come out about that. But we do know that carnivore without some form of fish is very omega-6 heavy, but I don't know how bad that is. So we're taking this supplement, and it makes our doctor happy. And we haven't noticed anything. I haven't changed in any way while taking it. So I haven't lost the gains I've made without it as a carnivore. But we did have that.
What were your triglycerides that you were concerned about it?
Mine were up in the 90s. I think I was 99 at the first test. Then it went down to 88. And then the most recent test, they were at 61.
I thought that, under 100 was kind of fine for triglycerides. I mean, was that a number that your doctor was worried about, or did you just feel like you wanted to lower it?
I just noticed that it happened. I was not concerned.
Oh, I see.
But when we started taking the supplement, they went down.
Uh-huh.
And
okay.
That was kind of the promise of taking that.
Mm-hmm.
So
it sounds like you pay attention to, sort of the various unique vitamins and minerals that are in specific meats and in specific types of food, and kind of work to make sure you're getting all of that. Does that sound about right?
Yes, that's right. I don't take a multivitamin. My husband does. I don't know why. It's just an old habit for him. I take the EPA and I take D3. But I also get out in the sun every day. And it's ironic that those of us who are impacted by that and are carnivore find that it doesn't, we don't burn. I used to burn. I used to get red and peel, and it was just a big mess to go out in the sun. But I get sun every day. I'm out there for at least 45 minutes taking a walk. And I also take D3 because I think that is not deficient. It's just, it's necessary for people, especially older people, because it just is something that we need to have to help digest things like calcium.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Nice. And so how would you say, how much would you say you eat in a day? Do you count that or pay attention?
Yeah, I do. I do track it. I'm a fan of tracking only because I want to see if I'm getting my maximum protein. Volume wise, I don't always hit my targets. That may be a function of my gastric bypass. So I'll have, I'll try to figure out the weights. I need to have about 96 grams of protein a day, and that's protein content, not by weight. So I'll eat pork belly for breakfast, a few ounces of that, have hamburger for lunch, and then have chicken or beef for dinner. And my fat is 121 grams a day, so I get plenty of that. And if I don't, I'll add some butter. I hit my targets, I get close to my targets. So that's, if you're asking in terms of weight and volume, I'd say I eat about 12 ounces of solid animal protein. I also consume eggs. I have 2 eggs a day, or at least every other day. And again, no dairy for me.
And you stay full and satisfied?
Yes, I'm fine with that. No, I don't have ravenous hunger like I used to. And I used to get that way on keto too. But
really?
Cutting the plants, yeah, I used to get a lot of sweet attacks, but not anymore.
Yeah. So, a lot of us struggle with cravings, and, sugar is a real beast to get rid of. So how, how was that experience of getting off of sugar, and, how is it different on keto versus on carnivore?
Well, it was tougher on keto because there are a lot of those keto treats that we used to make. I used to like to bake, and my husband has a sweet tooth. He still kind of does, but now he takes care of it with, well, both of us are on maintenance. We're down to where we believe we are going to stay, and at our lowest weight in decades. He'll have a keto ice cream bar, which is actually the keto brand ice cream bar. And, or sometimes I'll indulge him and make him some cookies with Boca Sweet. But I don't crave those things, and I wouldn't make them if it weren't for him. So, but once in a while we do indulge a little bit. And I will occasionally buy the Zevia soda pop, and he likes the cola and the 7-Up versions of that. So, but I can live without it because I don't think they're that great a product. They don't have a lot of taste, and the sweetness just it just leaves me like, why? I just don't get it. So I don't have too much of that, really.
Yeah. Artificial sweeteners is, kind of controversial in the carnivore community.
Very much so.
How does that work for you?
Well, for me, it works okay because I don't get cravings, but there are people who do. And there are some experts who claim that using an artificial sweetener is like a bridge until you can get to the point where you don't crave them any longer. I don't know about that. My husband, who's not present here to defend himself, just likes his sweets, and I'm very glad that he's not eating sugar. So we try to keep it down to the very natural ones like stevia and Boca Sweet, and stay away from the laboratory sweeteners that are known to form toxins in the gut, like aspartame and asulfame. There are probably others, Splenda, which is sucralose. Those we don't consume. But when we do, which is not every day, we'll have a treat once in a while, and he more so than I. So yeah, I'm not really fond of that because I think that they could trigger further cravings that might be uncontrollable in people who can. But I don't know, I guess it depends. I wouldn't have them every day. Some people, I think carnivore over time for me. I mean, I'm in my 4th year of carnivore, so I'm feeling that that kind of thing has lessened for me to such an extent that it's okay for me to say, yeah, once in a while I can do it. I don't crave it. I don't look forward to it. I don't use it as a reward, but there are plenty of people out there who are not where I'm at. And if I were advising anyone, I would say, proceed with caution. Mm-hmm. Don't make it a day. Don't say I'm going to have my meat all day and then I'm going to have my dessert and, you know, plan for it. I think that's not quite the way to approach it.
Well, you know, that's kind of what ended up happening with me for keto. Like when I first started keto, I was like super strict. So I had, you know, like broccoli and lettuce, but that was it. And then, you know, everything else was meat and animal fat. And but over time I started thinking, well, I can add in a little this, a little that. So I started adding in, you know, 1/4 cup of berries. And then I started adding in like a little bit of chocolate and then a little bit more. And it was supposed to be like once or twice a week. And then eventually it became every day. So for me, I know, you know, that it's always going to end up every day, every meal. So you know, I feel like I can't indulge that way, but yeah, but some people seem to be able to manage it. So yeah.
Well, you know yourself and how you react to things. I find them, even if they are from a natural source like stevia, I taste chemicals when I have them. So I'm not enjoying them to that extent if I do. And I think the last can of Zevia I had, I left most of it there because I can take it or leave it. And that's what carnivore has given me. It's given me that sense of discipline that I can make a conscious decision. But I wasn't always that way. And I fully empathize with people who are not, or I want to say maybe you'll get there someday, and it may be true. We see people like Kelly Hogan and Joe and Charlene Anderson who are they're just totally meat only, and the Andersons don't even use salt. You know, they're just so strict. But I think over time your tastes do change, and that you can evolve to that level where it's, you know, you can take it or leave it.
Well, I was just going to ask you, like, how strict are you, especially after the 2 interviews that I did with Dr. Chafee? And if any of you watching, you know, want to go back, I will link the videos above. But he was certainly inspiring to at least try a period of you know, being much stricter. And I saw a lot of comments where people were like, yeah, you know, I'm going to try this now.
Yes.
So, yeah. So, you know, considering that, you know, how strict do you like to be? And, you know, do you think it matters?
Well, I am relatively strict. I don't eat plants if I can help it. I also don't have honey. And I don't think that carnivores should have honey because I think it's a plant nectar. And yeah, as Dr. Chafee says, a bee may have made it, just regurgitated the nectar so that it took another form in its nest, but it's not an animal product per se. And fruit, I don't do fruit. I think I can count on my hand in a year the times I've had some wine. And most recently was Easter. I had half a glass, not even, like about 2 ounces of some white wine. And I went, eh, and I put it down. I thought, well, you know, I can take this chance, but it didn't inspire me to drink more wine, which it used to back in the day. And I would have wine when I was keto, a little more frequently, but not since carnivore. So I'm just not interested in it. Just not. It doesn't have the same attraction for me, like sweets don't have the same attraction for me. And not by intention, but sort of by accident of design, I've just lost my cravings for those things. And carnivore has given me that level of I want to say control, but the ability to distinguish that I don't need to do that. I don't need to indulge those things.
Wow, well, that's like music to a lot of people's ears. There's a lot of people who struggle with cravings and feel like there's no end in sight. But for you, there really was an end. I mean, once you took that stuff out, you had some healing, and then it was over.
I think time is key. Over time, you just if you continue to be as strict as you can be on carnivore. And as I said, I'm not a strictly meat and salt and water carnivore. I do have a variety of animal proteins. I think that helps a lot. It's the time, the commitment, and the impact that you see it have on your body that bring you to that point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, what is your fitness like now? I mean, once you regained your ability to walk and move around, what do you do nowadays?
I'm a big fan of Dr. Sean O'Mara, who is also a carnivore. I don't know if you're aware of him. And his Sean, SEANO''Mara, MARA. He's an MD who is also I want to say biophysicist, but that may not be the right term. He does sports medicine where he uses X-ray type equipment, MRI type equipment to gauge visceral fat in athletes. And he has come to the understanding that the best, most efficient exercise is sprinting, not running continuously and not even just walking continuously, but an intermittent sprint. It's called SIIT as opposed to HIIT in terms of exercise. So I'll do that. I go out for a walk, and I'll.
So wait, what does SIIT stand for? Short interval intensity training?
Yes. Short sprint interval intensity training. And I'll do at least 6 sprints during my walk. And the point is to raise your your heart rate. So get your heart beating faster. And you don't have to knock yourself out when you're just starting this and try to race against time or speed. It's just to get yourself moving a little bit faster. So in fact, they recommend you start with a 10 or 20 second sprint and then stop, cool down for 2 minutes, and then start again. So that's kind of like mine. I actually count to 20 4 times, and then I stop, and then I'll wait for a couple of minutes, and then I'll do the sprinting again. And I find that's really helped me feel a little bit more invigorated after exercise. And I don't come in and totally collapse like I used to after a 3-mile walk. So I'm really a fan of that kind of thing. And I believe him that it's very good for you to get that spike in your heart rate going, which a lot of athletes try to achieve, but they don't necessarily do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that very helpful.
Yeah. So that sounds great. So that's interesting that a more intense and vigorous exercise routine actually gives you more energy.
Yes. And I'm grateful that I can do it. I couldn't do this 5 years ago. No.
Let's see. So let's hear more. I mean, I think it's really cool that, both you and your husband are have done all of these dietary things together, because a lot of times, you have people kind of doing things separately, and then of course makes more challenges. One person in the family is eating one way, and then, the other person is like eating pizza and donuts and stuff all the time. So, how did you guys come together to do these things together, and what's his experience like versus yours?
Well, I got lucky in that he was the one who suggested the Atkins style diet at the beginning. And he's always been somewhat aware of his health and fitness. He was a firefighter for almost 30 years, and he had to keep in shape. And part of that time period, he trained other firefighters. So he was up on those nets every day, climbing big walls and jumping off of things. So he was very interested in fitness himself. So yes, we're very lucky. I read stories that are kind of sad all the time. My husband thinks this is the worst thing and tries to get me to eat vegetables, and I can't deal with him bringing home donuts. And I got lucky. I just say, knock wood. I got lucky that he is aware, and it's almost as if I don't have to tell him anything. He's got it. He's with it. And in the beginning, he watched a lot of videos with me, but he's just so totally convinced it's become a part of his personal philosophy. So, and he's very pleased to tell anybody about it, because he's 75, he'll be 76 in August, and he's in great shape. He's very trim. And he just keeps active all the time. He's always got to have a project going on. He comes on walks with me. He used to sprint, he doesn't lately, but he just keeps himself in shape because it's something that's important to him. So we lucked out on that as a couple.
Nice. So you work out together as well. That's good.
Well, we take turns actually. He's in the garage or I'm in the garage, but we do walk together, and that's a nice thing to do because that keeps the communication going. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's very much aware, and he knows I have the Facebook group, and I tell him, bring in little stories about what's transpiring and who's the latest expert and so forth. So yeah, he's involved.
Well, so it seems to me like, it feels like you are on the stricter end of carnivore, because I remember, you're sharing what happened with you when you quit drinking coffee, and, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of non-carnivore foods that you have. So can you share what happened with the coffee, and what other, non-carnivore foods, if any, do you have?
Well, because at the time I had a physician who was not fond of my cholesterol and triglyceride numbers, I became aware of Dave Feldman and his cholesterol code and his protocol for what to do before taking a test when you're a carnivore. And this is all pretty much to please doctors. So I did that the first time, and I saw, well, my numbers went down a little bit, but it wasn't that great. And the second time I did it, the protocol is to not drink coffee for 10 days to 2 weeks before you have your blood drawn for your test. And I tried that the second time, and my cholesterol went down 10 points. My triglycerides went down 10 points. That's what I was aiming for, lower triglycerides. And the third time I went to do it, I figured, why am I drinking coffee? I don't enjoy it that much. And I had stopped doing the bulletproof coffee, which we did with the MCT oil and also collagen powder. And I just took that out and just had black coffee for several months, about 8 months. And I said, why don't I just quit coffee and see what happens? And I did. And I didn't, aside from the blood test, which I had drawn in December, by Christmas, I had lost 20 pounds. It just went away. And I had not lost weight for about 8 months. Maybe I was due to lose weight, but that happened and it stayed off. So I was very surprised by that. And I figured, well, a lot of people say it's helpful to get your metabolism going, but there are other reasons not to drink it, because supposedly it does raise your cortisol and does have an impact on your blood sugar for some people who are sensitive to it, and does have an impact on triglycerides. So quitting coffee for me had a doubly helpful impact. So my triglycerides went down another 10 points. So that was helpful. And I just don't miss it. Now, it was a very difficult thing for my husband. He just did not want to do it. He went on decaf for a while. I just went 2 weeks without lowering the volume of coffee I drank, and then nothing. And he went from doing that to going to decaf. And he since, though, has quit as well. He also found that his triglycerides went down. Mm-hmm. But it didn't seem like a carnivore thing to drink. So.
Mm-hmm. So what, he didn't like bone broth? Like that wasn't a good substitute? for
Yes,
him?
he's bone broth now. He takes collagen powder with bone broth every morning. That's his hot drink in the morning. And I just have a glass of water. So I'm fine with that. So yeah.
Yeah.
He does, he misses his coffee. And if we go somewhere where he can smell coffee or visit someone's house and they offer him a cup of coffee, he's actually reached over and taken a sip from someone's cup. He misses his coffee, but he's being a good husband and staying away from it. I think if I said, guess what, you can have coffee again, he'd be thrilled. But that was one thing that I kind of, I didn't nag him, but I did kind of talk about how it would be beneficial. And then when I lost the 20 pounds, he was like, wow, this is a surprising thing. I don't think he didn't have a lot of weight to lose. Men are a little bit better with the weight loss. He's been in the 140s, low 150s for quite some time, and he's 5'9". So he doesn't need to lose any more weight.
Yeah. So, oh man, what was I going to ask? Oh, so are there other things that you have that are not carnivore?
Not really. Once in a while, we'll have some nuts, but I avoid them because I'm a little salt sensitive. And if they're salted, I don't want them. But for the most part, we keep our house relatively free of non-carnivore foods. We certainly don't have any grains. We have family out here. We moved to Arizona in September, and my eldest son and his wife and 2 kids are here, and his in-laws and brother-in-law and in-laws, extended family. I'll have them over for dinner, and I'll make them civilian food. I'll buy corn on the cob. I won't. I've made potatoes. I won't go as far as rice, I made a cornbread once, but that stuff goes home with them. It's just out of the house. So no, we don't. Our indulgence, I think, is the occasional sweet thing, and sometimes a nut, or it'll be a macadamia nut or pecans. And I don't know what the oxalate load on that is, but it's so infrequent that it's not going to be a big deal.
So you're pretty super strict. I mean,
we try to be. We do consider ourselves to be on maintenance, so we could have the indulgent glass of wine. I think he'll have a beer once in a while, but I don't keep it in the house. I just don't. And yeah, we are, and that is because that's the way we want to be. We feel that that's helpful. That's for our health.
Okay. So tell me more about this salt sensitivity, and are you one of those no salters, or what's that about?
Well, I'm not exactly a no salter, but I had hypertension on both sides of my family, and my father had congestive heart failure. My mother had a pacemaker. They were both salt sensitive. So when I moved to Florida in 2009, I started cooking for them, because they were elderly and they needed some help. And I cooked without salt. They requested cooking without salt. And I was on blood pressure medication. And I noticed that if I went home and I ate something with salt, I'd get a headache. And my husband, who's a former paramedic, he keeps a blood pressure cuff in the house, and my blood pressure would go up. So I realized that salt was impacting me. So yes, I know that it's very popular with carnivores to start to be aware that they should consume some salt. And it is helpful to have salt in one's diet, in my opinion. But I don't go along with the theory that one should overdo it. And yes, I do feel an impact. And I can tell, because I'm me and I have blood pressure that's sensitive to it. If I eat something that's salty, I'll get a headache, and I'll check my blood pressure, and sure enough, it's high. But all I have to do is to stop eating the salt. So I don't eat bacon wholesale. I'll know how much sodium is in the bacon, and I'll have 1 or 2 strips. And I don't eat salami or hot dogs or that kind of thing because they're full of sodium. And I don't take electrolytes. I stopped taking electrolytes a couple of years ago because I found they were driving up my blood pressure. So,
did you feel like you needed the electrolytes in the beginning, but then as time went on, you didn't?
I did. I was convinced that I needed them in the beginning, but I don't know what convinced me of that. My understanding at this point is it's very helpful if you get the early onset diarrhea when your body is going into ketosis because you have a very consistent low level of carbs and you have no fiber in your gut and the fluid just starts gushing forth. I think it's important then, and I think Judy Cho is of the same opinion. But after that, you need to kind of understand salt is going to slow down that propensity to do that. So I don't know. That's just the way salt works. And in fact, if you go to the other extreme, when what happens to carnivores is they start with the loose stools and they go to the hard stools, and they think that they're terribly constipated and they might need a laxative, and they're having trouble with that. Too much salt is going to mess you up on that end of the spectrum. So you need to start to kind of regulate what your salt intake is. So yeah, I am personally salt sensitive, but there are many people who are not, who consume 2,000 milligrams of sodium a day and then some, and they're just fine. So again, it's something you need to ascertain for yourself and to always watch your blood pressure. And I think with the elderly group, those 40 plus elderly, that's an issue too that I think over time develops in a person's body, that you become sensitive to salt. So it's just something to watch out for. And certainly I do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You know, the people that I work with, most need the salt, and then there's a few who need to not have salt. So it's not a huge number, but, you know, I've definitely seen that. So, you know, so I look out for that. And then I think over time too, my need for electrolytes has, like, you know, almost completely gone away. I mean, depending on what I'm doing, I don't really feel like I need them. So maybe in the summer when it's really hot and I'm sweating and exercising, then I may feel like I need a boost, but otherwise, you know, I'm not really taking them. So yeah, so it's always interesting, but, you know, I think that whether you need them is so, you know, it's so flexible and has to do with like the weather even, and, you know, heat and, you know,
activity,
your shower, did you take a bath? Like there's so many ways that we interact with water. So yeah, so that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, I keep them in the house because they're just residual. I had some keto chow drops, and my husband will use them occasionally if he's out working on a project, and we live in a very warm climate. And if he knows he's perspiring a lot and he starts to feel it, he'll put a few drops in, but not on a regular basis at all.
So let's talk about the group a little bit more, the Facebook group. So what would you say are some of the more I don't know, maybe like some of the interesting or you know, really impressive success stories that you've seen?
We have, let's see, so many stories. Every once in a while I'll post what did you heal from on Carnivore. One person who's a nurse had terrible eczema on her legs, and she had lymphedema, and she couldn't walk, she couldn't perform her job very well. And Carnivore fixed that up for her in a matter of months. About 3 months later, she posted photos about how she recovered from that. And there are people who
Is she still in the group?
Yes. Yeah.
So I have somebody else who has lymphedema and needs to, and is, you know, struggling with the work. So I would love to get her into the group. So I will do that. I will tell her to join.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. We can have people who can address that. Also, people who have managed to balance their hormones. There is a specialty group called Carnivore for Menopausal Women in Facebook. But we do also have people in the group who advise with their experience on that.
Oh, okay. Oh, so there's a separate menopause carnivore
Yes,
group.
it's not
Boy.
like it's carnivore for menopausal women, as opposed to menopausal men, which is an issue too, but it's for women. Yes. And that has been helpful because apparently a low-fat diet isn't very helpful if you're having hormonal imbalance.
Yeah.
And geez, so many stories, it's hard to just collapse them all. A lot of people who've had arthritis, issues with arthritis, have found relief. And I was aware that I had arthritis in my back. I wasn't told you're arthritic, but I had an arthritic condition in my back with my herniated disc and desiccated discs. And that has been helped. People have been helped with that. Again, anxiety and depression has been helped with the carnivore diet. Trying to think, thyroid conditions, thyroid issues, those have been helped. Any kind of joint pain that may go back to arthritis, but it may have to do with carnivore as well. A whole lot of, a host of issues have been helped with this diet, more so than keto. And I'm not anti-keto at all. In fact, I think it's a great gateway diet for carnivore, but it did not help the way carnivore has helped people in the group. And we're up to almost 7,000 people in the group, and they're pretty active. We have an ancillary group for cooking, carnivore cooking tips and techniques. So that's also helpful. But we don't do advice in that group. It's strictly a recipe swap thing.
Oh, I gotta join, man. I keep a collection of my, favorite recipes and things I've seen that people like and or try. So I'll have to try that out. Although I find, sorry, go ahead.
One of your recipes is in there because I do your pork belly, your crispy pork belly recipe, of course. Yes, and that's also in the other group where we have a recipe subsection in the guides. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Nice. I love that people like it. And it's such an easy way to make it. So I really enjoy that. But I have taken Rustin Boneyard's recipe for making pork belly, which is amazing, but so hard to cook. I don't know if you have tried it.
No,
well,
I don't. I'm not familiar with it.
Well, basically you boil it first and then you boil off the water and you fry it. But like that causes the grease to really splatter a lot, because of the water, and like enough that like chunks fly up into the air and hit the wall and are all over the place. And like, even so, I'm such a scaredy cat. So even when I'm cooking bacon, like I'm wearing a long sleeve sweatshirt, if I have a hood on it, I'm going to put the hoodie up, but and I'm going to lean back like that. So cooking this is like a total nightmare for me. So I like have all these layers on and I put like a bag over my head because it'll literally splatter right on the face.
I have a splatter screen. Would that help? Could you use that?
So I have one too, but I find the splatter screen, I mean, even though it's supposed to let air out, it tends to steam the food anyway.
Okay.
Yeah. So, so I think this is, to the nature of the beast. So it's even better than my way of cooking pork belly.
So worth it. It's worth it. I love pork belly.
Yeah. But I've only done it twice, and I don't know, I'm not motivated to do it again because it really is a lot of work.
So you're able to eat pork comfortably these days? I know you went through a period where you could not.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what that was about. So I think, it was just, another aspect of the healing. But yeah, I am, and I can eat pork rinds, and it's not the problem that it once was. But I kind of wonder if it was an assault problem though, especially with the pork belly. With the pork rinds. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I still don't eat pork all the time, but yeah, it's not a problem.
Good, good. I think Chaffee touched on that, about how you go through that adjustment period, and then you find that you can continue on without the impact. Because some people say, oh, I can't eat chicken, it does this to me. And I went through 4 months of not being able to have egg whites. And this was just last year. I tried, it really upset my digestion. It was a gastrointestinal impact. So I stopped with the egg whites, and I went to the egg yolk muffins, the recipe by Carnivore Yogi. I love those things. I make those every week. And each one, I used 16 egg yolks and cut it into 16 pieces. So I knew each one was an egg yolk. So that really helped.
It's made of egg yolks or egg whites?
It's egg yolks. The egg whites were causing the sensitivity. And it was gastrointestinal. I don't think it was a histamine issue, because I wasn't getting stuffy. I wasn't getting that's usually a sign of that. But it's the basic recipe is 4 egg yolks, 4 tablespoons of fat, a pinch of salt, and a teaspoon of baking powder. Now they do make baking powder without cornstarch, so it can be had in various brands on Amazon, so you can buy that. And it bakes up. You can make it as muffins. I do the 16, so I put it in an 8x8, formerly used for brownie pan, and then cut it into 16 pieces. So I have my 16 egg yolks. And I went with that for a while because I was worried I wasn't going to get enough nutrition without eggs, because I tried to incorporate them every day. And then I started kind of trying the whole eggs again, and they were fine. But I had gone trying them on and off for a month, and it was ridiculous. It was just terribly impactful. And that was in my 3rd year of carnivore. It was like, why is this happening to me now? So I don't know what it is that the body does as it adjusts to those things, but I find a lot of people reacting to, I can't eat beef, I can't eat chicken, I can't eat pork, I can't eat eggs. Some can't eat seafood, and then they go back to it and then fine again. So that's kind of a cyclical thing that can happen.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I really try to listen to my taste. So if I'm not interested in eating eggs, I take that as a sign that, I don't want eggs, or it's not going to work out for me. And like you, eggs is one of those things through my whole life. Like I've had, we've been on again, off again, and I've gone long periods. Like I think the first time I was 10, and they would make me really nauseous, so I stopped eating them for about 10 years. And then periodically I would, because that, I didn't like that gross nauseous feeling. So so periodically I would, reintroduce and try them. And it really wasn't until I went keto that for some reason it didn't bother my stomach anymore. And so I had eggs a lot. And then on carnivore, I found again that, they just kind of turned my stomach. So I just stopped eating them. And now I eat them sometimes, very infrequently. I try not to eat them too often, because I don't want to trigger anything.
Well, they're one of the top 8 allergens, so I'm not surprised at all that, you'd have a negative reaction. But I was surprised because it never, ever impacted me before, and not as a carnivore, not on keto. So it was a surprise. But I see that time and again. With carnivores in the group.
So for all of you watching, have hope. It may not be that you have to give up things forever. It's just, just for now. And there's so much healing to be had. I mean, like the way you describe it, you were still healing 6 months in, a year in. I mean, there were a lot of changes that your body has gone through, right?
Yes, I'd agree with that. And it takes time. Time is key. And people hear about the healing and they go, well, I've been on this diet for 3 weeks and nothing's happened. And it's like, well, you got to hang in there. It's not instant mashed potatoes, which is probably not the best metaphor. It takes a while, and it really takes consistency. So you just can't expect it to happen overnight. And I do advise people to be patient and stick to it.
Yeah, that's one of the most frustrating things I feel like with carnivore is that it's like it's slow and slow, you know.
Mhm.
The changes can be huge, but you know that it's happening slowly, happening slowly. It's not, you know, it's not a quick race to the end. And I think that people come to it thinking that it is because they're like, if I go, you know, low, you know, keep my carbs low on keto, if I cut them out entirely, it'll go faster. But it's like, no. In
Mhm.
fact, I feel like it goes slower as your body is like, oh, great, this is an
Mhm.
environment for healing. We're going to do that first, and then we'll come back to the other stuff.
Yeah, there's also that issue of gluconeogenisis, which I've read is a little bit more of a point for people who are older. I know there's some experts who say, oh, there's no such thing. You can have all the protein you want. But I was reading just the other day about how you can metabolize protein as glucose. So it pays, for me at least, my approach and my philosophy has been to kind of watch what I eat in terms of quantity.
Mm-hmm. So you feel like 96 grams of protein is enough for you, or how tall are you, or you know, what size person?
5'7", 5'7", 125, and yeah, it seems to work. I feel fine. I'm not tired. I can get up and go. And we moved down here and we changed residences twice before we moved into our house. And we were hauling stuff up and downstairs, moving furniture and boxes and all kinds of things. So I'm very pleased with the way carnivore has given me the energy that I have, the energy level I have for a 70-year-old. I'm able to get up there. I take my granddaughter to the park almost every week, and we go on all the weird gymnasium type equipment they have there. And I keep up with her. She's 6 years old and she's running around, and grandma races after her. So yeah, I'm very happy with carnivore from that perspective, because I see my age peers are seated, or they're in wheelchairs, or they're tooling around Walmart in an electric cart. So it's like, no thanks. I don't want that for me. I like the carnivore diet for that, especially that it's given me a new lease on life. And I'll take it and I'll keep it.
Well, my uncle is 85 and he's determined to live to 350. And I don't know about that, but you know, I'm starting to feel hopeful that 100 is, you know, possible. I mean, and healthy 100.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you feel? Do you feel like, you know, your life is going to be longer for all of this?
It may or may not be longer, barring accidents, but I would hope that my quality of life would be longer. I watched both my parents age. My mom had Parkinson's. She passed at 85. And my dad didn't really have anything but that congestive heart failure. And he kept going to 96. And he died because he gave himself a skin infection. So there's some longevity in my family. My other relatives have lived long enough. But yeah, I think it's the quality of life to be able to get up and go. We joined a museum once we got here, and we go there, and it's part of our exercise. We go to malls, we walk around the malls. We can be active, and we don't have to think twice about it. And I don't have to say, oh, I can't do that. My back is not today. I can't do that. Don't have to turn down an invitation to an activity, and we can go out and find more things to do. And I feel, geez, I feel like at least 20 years younger, which may be pushing it, but I feel like I did when I was 40 and I was a jock and I was running 4 miles a day and doing all kinds of that circuit exercise at the gym kind of thing. And I felt good about myself. And yeah, I really think carnivore has been an answer for longevity for me.
Nice.
So far, so good.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I can tell from this vantage point.
Well, you definitely seem, you know, very, you know, energetic, and, you know, starting a community and being a leader in the carnivore space is, that's a big deal. So, you know, that's certainly takes energy as well. So
yes, it does, and time and patience.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really happy to have gotten this opportunity to have you on the show. I really, sort of frustrated that I hadn't gotten to it sooner, because you have been, a big supporter of mine and I yours. And, I really appreciate you in the community.
Well, I've been a fan of yours for a long time, long before I started my group. And thank you for the opportunity to be here. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So folks who are watching, make sure that you head over to her Facebook group, and I will put the link in the description and probably put it up above as well. You'll find a lot of great info there if you are 40 plus. And I hope you enjoyed today, and I will see you soon.